You've made it clear a few times today. You like the ketones and the glucose measured first thing in the morning. There's something called the dawn phenomenon where we have hormones spike in the morning, starting during the night, including cortisol, bringing blood glucose up. Naturally, we're going to have a higher blood glucose in the morning, and that's going to impact ketones. Why do you like to take your measurement at that time?
Yes, because that dawn phenomenon, well, take a guess, Jesse. How much do you think it would impact the blood sugar in a healthy person?
In a healthy person, I'm guessing 10 points.
Yeah, maybe 5. I mean, it's a very slight difference. I mean, your blood sugar should be flat stable. In fact, throughout the night, it should be sinking a little lower, a little lower, a little lower. And by the time you wake up in the morning, it should be 70 to 85, even with the dawn phenomenon. And you should have recruited resources out of storage because it's been 12 hours since you've eaten. You used up the stored glucose. Now get to that long-term storage emptying. That's how you stay lean. That's how, what was happening when my not so skinny self, the prior 15 pounds, it wasn't that there was I just didn't tap into any fat resources while sleeping because I would spike insulin too late in the day. One bite of food. That's what did it. Super unfair. But that morning fasting number is looking at your metabolism. I have folks get those continuous glucose monitors, and I'm kind of a stickler about them getting a G7, the one you need a prescription for, because you can calibrate it. And when that calibration, is when you have an accurate number, and that morning fasting blood sugar, when it only gets to 95 in the morning, you got problems. That's not normal. Yes, you're healthier than most of the people that you're going to have supper with, but that's not normal. Normal is to get that decreased enough glucose that you emptied fat storage, which is where the ketones should be raising in the morning. So I hear all the time, that's impossible. I cannot get my ketones to go up in the morning. That's impossible. I'm like, no, you're just sicker than you think you are. You have to stop that eating even sooner in the previous day. You have to have a nothing burger for 36 hours once a week or something. We got to find the lever that pushes your metabolism back to the normal zone. And folks give all this credit to the dawn phenomenon. I'm like, no, it's not that sexy. It's a little bit. And when you're ill, when you're insulin resistant, yeah, there's a whole bunch of that going on. And your ketones go to pot. They're 0.3 in the morning. They're hardly measurable. And you're not going to lose any weight.
So what it sounds like you're saying is you like the fact that we need to push through that, because a lot of times if we're measuring later in the day without that, it might be falsely looking good.
Yes.
And if we're still being affected by the dawn phenomenon, which you want us to check at that time, it's a sign we're still metabolically sick.
Exactly. You can make those numbers look really sexy. It's not an accident that I check my numbers on my live YouTube show once a week at 4:00 in the afternoon. My numbers are going to look great. I'm busy. I don't eat during the day, especially, I'm fasted now. And it's not, as long as I sleep, my numbers are going to be good. When you're really trying to say, all right, here's the rules for looking at yourself. Again, your physician is never going to care this much. They're not going to study you this much. You have to study you this much. And when you wake up in the morning and those blood sugars are triple digits, we're in trouble. When you can't make a ketone in the first thing in the morning, you need to pull on a lever somewhere in that footprint for how you're choosing to keep those mitochondria healthy. Whether that's the sauna needs to happen more often, the last bite of food needs to be earlier in the afternoon. The fat content sometimes needs to be higher. I need to go back to the beginning, because your insulin resistance has led to this trickle of ketones. And we need to jumpstart things again by saying, remember that trick where you put ketones in circulation and then the liver goes, wow, we're making ketones. I must have missed the memo. I'm going to make some ketones. Ketones beget ketones, and then they can wave into it. It's one of the reasons why I did not mean to get internet famous about teaching people how to use sardines, but it's a brilliant trick. If the nothing burger is hard, and I contend most of my insulin resistant patients are going to get a better return on their investment. And I mean the investment of pain, like you're eating sardines or nothing, but you're going to get a higher return of improving your metabolism with a 72-hour sardine challenge than you are of a water fast for most of my severely insulin resistant patients.
Okay, by the sounds of it, for somebody that's not seeing ketones in the morning and their blood glucose is a little higher, you like to stimulate the metabolism. The other option would be for somebody who is just getting metabolically healthy slower over time to do a lot of what we're saying here and then wait for the metabolism to get healthier. How do you look at those two where it's somebody sick and they're progressing, but they're being affected, say, by the dawn effect in the morning? How do you know when to step on the gas and to give them more stimulation versus just wait and let that metabolism slowly heal over time?
Yeah, I mean, the number one separator there is how long have they been insulin resistant. So if I look at most of the folks in my clinic, they're in their 5th, 6th, 7th, 8th decade of life. They've been around the sun a lot of times. And when their body slumps into the low production of ketones, I mean, I'm going to push on that sardine challenge first. I'm like, you gotta prime the pump again. I mean, I have folks that do a 72-hour sardine challenge twice a month. Some of them once a week. And you're like, why so often? Because it's every time they get out of that tight of a eating cycle, their ketones shut off. And that is a reflection of how sick they are. You should be able to keep, I mean, so I do this class twice a year, right? Where I lead 200 students and I do all these hard things. Like we do 72 hours of sardines and I'm pricking my finger and it's showing up on the dashboard too. And so I do that 72-hour challenge at least twice a year. I do it more than that, but at least twice a year. And then the next week we do a water fast. And when we watch 200 students who are, some of them, very ill, there is not a one of them that doesn't raise ketones in that sardine challenge. There are people who can't raise ketones when they fast. They're too sick. Their body, as soon as that like stress happens where the resources are zero, the ability for them to mobilize their fat resources, it's like broken. And it's not broken. It just means you have to stress it in a way where the resources are coming in, you get the ketones in circulation, and then you can try water fasting. If you go from a low ketone production in an insulin resistant patient and you try to stimulate the production of ketones with the nothing burger, I mean, Cahill did this in the 70s. It was like 38 days before they were making serious ketones. They did nothing for 38 days on some of these, severely obese patients. Like, there's no way people would do that. And it's not healthy. They sacrificed a bunch of, bone resources and really muscle mass was lost. So we're trying to get them healthier, pushing them and having no ketone production. They feel terrible and they're not helping themselves. Pushing them with a sardine challenge. And then, you did it by the morning fasting ketones were there.
A potential argument could be, I've been doing this for a while. My body's becoming more efficient at using ketones, so I'm not seeing them on the urine strip or in the blood. How do you think about that?
Let's do blood. Urine strip, there's a lot of reasons why you met the need. I mean, again, what is the urine? It means you wasted it. Like, okay, you didn't need it. So there is that potential. Now, I'll tell you, it's really hard to do that. Your body's always overshooting. But so the blood, we don't have to have that argument. We can be confident in our data. Here's what it is. And when that resource is flatlined, I mean, let's say 0.3, 0.4. That's not ketosis. There's no ketone that you get to say ketosis is 0.5 or above. When you're steadily at 0.7, that's different. That is ketone production, okay? So when I look at people saying, boy, I just use as many ketones as I make, I call BS. I'm like, no, insulin's winning. You're making none. You have the evidence in your finger. Quit lying to yourself and get in the sauna every day for 18 minutes of zone 2 workouts. Stop eating every day at 3 o'clock for a week. Just give me a week. Do 3 days of sardines only. Just do it. And I have yet to see that argument proven wrong. Like, that's not true. Do this. Do a stimulus, a real stimulus, and watch the ketone production happen.
No, I agree with that. I've done your sardine fast a couple times, and you're going to see a lot of ketones. But I still think the argument could be made if somebody's just on a regular ketogenic diet that if they're not in the blood, maybe my body's just producing enough that my mitochondria are using, and then they're not in the blood.
So
not to say we couldn't stimulate them more, but maybe we're at a good equilibrium.
Where do the ketones get made at?
The liver.
Right. And then where do they get used at?
The cells in the mitochondria. So
how do they get there?
Through the blood. But what if the right amount is traveling to the cells to the mitochondria?
You're still going to have a steady state, though. It's going to be 0.7. If it's 0.3 or 0.4, it's not enough to be you're not getting any medical benefit from it for sure. You got to make more ketones. You got to stimulate somewhere. And I'm a perfect example of that. Those 2 years or 3 years when I was putting on that weight or not losing weight, whatever you want to call that. Yeah, I would wake up in the morning, my ketones were 0.3. I would fast once a week and I'd get ketones of 2 points, lovely. But the rest of the week, I'd wake up in the morning, ketones 0.3, 0.4. Ketones, I knew it. I'm like, it's good enough. It's good enough. It took a hurricane to say, okay, I should stop eating at night. I mean, so I see it. It's hard. When I look at some of the just devastating stories of people who they want the truth. What's the formula? How do I lose the weight? And what I think our jobs are with these megaphones of platforms to teach people is, well, just don't lie to yourself. I was lying to myself. It was 0.3, 0.4. But I did it once a week. I did that good thing. Okay, good job. But if you want to lose weight, you got to fix that other thing and get ketones in the morning to empty that fat mass. Or you'll just be stable or slightly growing.
No, this is good. These are the questions I have.
This is true. Me too. I had them too.
The other piece too I want to make sure we hone in on within this is efficiency of the mitochondria. Could that affect ketones in the blood?
Yeah, I mean, how quickly your body burns that, especially, I mean, the biggest place I see that is the advent of recruiting a new crop, okay? Like when people come into the 21 day and they've been keto eating 20 carbs or less for a year, I mean, sometimes it's the second or third time they've taken this class because they're like, okay, it worked last time, but I don't think it's not going to work this time. It's not going to work this time. And so their mitochondria are so much better than they were 3 years ago. They do a great job. They are in a ketogenic, I mean, they've got ketones of 0.6, 0.7 most mornings, but they're flatline. They're not losing any weight. You say, well, okay, we need to overshoot. We need to stress and pee some of those calories out, pee some of those ketones out. So they have hardy mitochondria. You can pull on the lever of, well, put them under heat. Put the body in a place where it has to offload the heat, and that's going to spin that mitochondria, get that energy, and you're sweating. Okay. Now you just leveled up that efficiency. That's one thing of burning that heat. But they've been in that mode where they see a ketone, they're going to burn that first. I mean, if you lined up a sugar and a ketone right in front of that mitochondria, it burns it's that keto responsive. So, I mean, there's a slight, in practical purposes of seeing patients with that problem, there's usually a lever that when they pull it, you can see that they made more ketones and the blood levels went up and they lost the weight.
If you enjoyed that clip, you're going to want to head over here and catch a full episode. I'll see you over there.
Your physician is never going to care this much. They're not going to study you this much. You have to study you this much. That morning fasting blood sugar, when it only gets to 95 in the morning, you got problems. That's not normal.